Hello and welcome to Mimi's Sketchbook. Today my illustration was inspired by Paul David Tripp's book New Morning Mercies, and today is August 22nd. And this is one of my favorite plants, and it's called a Christmas fern. And that's the common name for it, but there's also its botanical name, and that, now I'm going to try and say it correctly, is Polysticum acrostichoides, I think. But it's just fun to try and say that Latin name every now and then. But anyways, this is a native plant to Eastern North America. And you can find it all the way up and down from zone 3 to zone 7. And it just is so easy to grow that everybody should have one in their yard, especially if you have shade. They're happiest in rich, loamy, moist soil that you would find in the woods. But they'll grow almost everywhere except in full sun, clay, and a bog. They don't like sitting in water. If you go through a bit of a dry spell and you forget to water these, they're not going to shrivel up and die like some of the tender ferns do, but they'll be able to tolerate it pretty well. The Christmas fern is an evergreen fern. They have leathery leaves that hold their shape, and stay green all winter long. And even in the middle of winter, if you went and uncovered them with the snow, they'd still look pretty good underneath, and you could cut them and put them in a flower arrangement. But by spring, they're well spent out, and the new fronds grow up from the center of it, and the old ones just sort of decay underneath. Once one of these ferns has been established in your garden, they will gradually form a colony that you can easily divide and plant extra plants in other parts of your yard. But they are definitely not invasive like some aggressive ferns are. But the main reason I love this fern and many others is that they are native woodland plants. And one of my very favorite things is to go exploring through a woods and to find, just in a natural setting, to find a colony of ferns. To me, it's enchanting to think that ferns have been growing like this and in places like this for millions of years. They have actually found fossils of ferns from 400 million years ago. Doesn't this look just like the frond of a Christmas fern? I'm not sure this is the right word, but it almost is humbling to think that I am nurturing the descendant of a plant that existed over 400 million years ago. Today in our devotions, Paul Tripp tells us we should never be satisfied with the status quo of our relationship with God, but we should always desire to grow more like Him and to build a closer relationship with Him. And I have to tell you that I'm struggling with this, especially when everything around us seems to be mayhem and madness, especially what's portrayed on television and the news. I watch very little of it, but it's hard to avoid because it's everywhere. And every conversation always gets around to it. And when it does, I can't remain detached. I get emotional and angry and very judgmental. And I don't think I'm alone. The last thing I think about when I see mobs looting, destroying property, and attacking police is to be more like Jesus. I take on the role of an avenging angel whose sole purpose is to punish wrongdoers. I have to say that right now it's very discouraging to think what the future will be like. For additional reading, Paul Tripp sends us over to Philippians 1. And this is the Apostle Paul speaking in a letter to the Philippians. And he says, "This is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best, and you may be pure and blameless." Now let's just remember what was going on at that time. Paul is writing from prison. The Roman Empire has been marching in every direction, taking over country after country after country. And Nero is emperor. Christians are being murdered for not renouncing their faith. Talk about madness and mayhem. Paul doesn't write a letter about how to get revenge or how to demand justice during these times, but he writes about love, and that your love may abound more and more, so that you are pure and blameless. It's pretty appalling when I compare my approach to dealing with these problems to Paul's approach. Getting angry and emotional and demanding justice will gain nothing in the long run. But praying that love would abound and desire a closer relationship with God will have eternal consequences. I'm not saying what is going on is okay, but in the history of our world, we've seen many terrible events and have survived them, and we will survive what's going on now. And hopefully, if we keep our eyes on eternity, we will come out of this time better for it, because we will have grown closer to the Lord. Now, if you are still listening, you might be asking yourself, what does a Christmas fern have to do with any of this? And I'll tell you, I've always had this timeless connection with ferns and have kind of mentally seen them existing in prehistoric times. And I knew they had been found fossilized. But just today, I read that they've existed for over 400 million years. And as impressive as that is, it's nothing in comparison to eternity. So thank you for joining me today at Mimi's Sketchbook. I hope that this was an encouragement to you, and if it was, could you please subscribe and give it a thumbs up, and maybe even share this with someone else. So thank you, and God bless.